Captain Doyen stood at the window of his ship and watched the stars move past. The Defiant Dawn was not the biggest ship in the fleet, but it was strong. He had commanded it for 5 years now, and in that time he had seen many strange things in space. But today felt different. Something bad was coming. Behind him, the door opened. Dr. Hana walked in carrying a data pad. She looked worried. "Captain, you need to see this," she said. Doyen turned away from the window. "What is it?" "Reports from the Outer Rim. 12 colonies have gone silent in the past 3 weeks. No distress calls, no survivors, nothing. Just silence." Doyen felt a cold feeling in his chest. 12 colonies meant millions of people. "What happened to them?" Hana showed him the data pad. On the screen were images from automated probes. They showed dead worlds. Empty cities. Everything was covered in some kind of gray organic matter. "The Galactic Assembly is calling it the Vorash Swarm. They say it came from outside our galaxy." "An invasion?" "Worse. They consume everything, all biological matter. They don't want territory or resources. They just eat and move on." Hana's voice shook a little. She had seen many terrible things in her career, but this was different. Doyen sat down in his chair. He remembered stories from his grandmother. 200 years ago, Earth had almost died. A massive solar flare was going to hit the planet and kill everyone. But the Valerics came. They were aliens from a peaceful world, and they saved humanity. They put up shields and diverted the deadly radiation. 8 billion people lived because the Valerics were kind. Since that day, humans had been part of the Galactic Assembly, but they were always treated as lesser beings. The other aliens came from what they called garden worlds. Their planets were safe and peaceful. Earth was different. Earth was dangerous. Humans evolved fighting against nature every single day. The aliens called Earth a death world, and they called humans Deathworlders. For 200 years, humans did the dirty jobs: mining, salvage, waste management. The aliens were grateful that humans existed, but they never respected them. They thought humans were primitive and violent. "Where is Ambassador Jinwoo right now?" Doyen asked. "At the Assembly Hall on Valara Prime. There's an emergency session happening now." Doyen nodded. "Contact him. Tell him we're ready if they need us." On Valara Prime, the great assembly hall was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Ambassador Jinwoo sat in the back section where the minor species were placed. He had gray hair now and deep lines on his face. He had spent 30 years trying to earn respect for humanity. Today, he watched as the assembly panicked. High Chancellor Vrix stood at the center podium. He was a Velarix, tall and elegant with blue skin and 4 arms. "The Vorash swarm is unlike anything we have faced before. Our fleets have engaged them 3 times. Each time we suffered heavy losses. They do not retreat. They do not negotiate. They only consume." A representative from the Therox species stood up. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" 6 months, Vrix said. "Maybe less." "They move faster than we predicted." The chamber filled with worried voices. Jinwoo listened carefully. He heard fear in their words. These species had lived in peace for thousands of years. They had small conflicts, political disputes, but never real war. Never a fight for survival. Jinwoo stood up. It took a moment before anyone noticed him. Finally, Vrix acknowledged him. "The human representative wishes to speak." "Thank you, Chancellor. I want to offer Earth's assistance. Our fleet is small, but we have experience with difficult situations. Let us help." A few representatives laughed. One of them, a Cillian with orange skin, spoke loudly. "What can Deathworlders do that our advanced fleets cannot? You are good at physical labor, not warfare." Jinwoo kept his face calm. 200 years ago, the Valarics saved us when we could not save ourselves. We have never forgotten that kindness. We would like to return the favor." Vrix looked at Jinwoo for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. Human ships will assist with evacuation operations. We have several colonies on the frontier that need to be emptied before the swarm arrives. You will help transport civilians to safety. We can do more than evacuate people, Jinwoo said. That is all we require, Vrix replied firmly. Thank you for your service. Jinwoo sat down. Around him, other representatives were already discussing defense strategies. None of them looked at him. He pulled out his communication device and sent a message to Captain Doyun. 20 minutes later, Doyun received his orders. The Defiant Dawn and 5 other human ships were to proceed to Talos 7, a Valarix mining colony with 50,000 civilians. The Vorash swarm would reach that system in 72 hours. They had 3 days to evacuate everyone. Doyun gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. Commander Sora was there, along with the chief engineer and the Marine commander. He showed them the mission details. It's a simple evacuation, the engineer said. We load them up and move them to safety. Commander Sora shook her head. If we evacuate them, the swarm will follow the refugee ships. Civilian transports are slow. They'll be easy targets. What are you suggesting? Doyun asked. Someone needs to stay behind and slow down the swarm. Buy time for the transports to get away. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. It was a suicide mission. Doyun looked at the star map on the table. Talos 7 was in an asteroid field. There were mining facilities, equipment, explosives. It could be defended, at least for a while, but the people who stayed to fight would not be coming home. The Assembly ordered us to evacuate only, the engineer reminded them. The Assembly doesn't understand this enemy, Sora said. They think they can fight a traditional war, but the Vorash don't care about honor or tactics. They just consume everything in their path. Doyun made his decision. Set course for Talos 7. Maximum speed. When we get there, we'll assess the situation. If we can save those people by fighting, then we'll fight. Even if the Assembly orders us not to, the Marine commander asked. Doyun thought about his grandmother. She used to tell him stories about the day the Valarix ships appeared in Earth's sky. How beautiful they looked. How grateful everyone felt. She died believing that humanity owed the Valarix everything. The Valarix saved us because it was the right thing to do, Doyun said. We'll do the same. Get us to Talos 7 as fast as possible. As the officers left to prepare, Doyun stayed in the briefing room alone. He looked at an old photograph on the wall. It showed his grandmother standing next to a Valarix engineer during the SHIELD deployment. Both of them were smiling. We remember, Doyun whispered to the photograph. We always remember. The Defiant Dawn and its small fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. 72 hours until the swarm arrived. 50,000 lives depending on them, and a captain who was ready to disobey orders if it meant saving people who had once saved his entire species. The stars blurred into lines of light as they raced toward Talos 7. The Defiant Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Talos 7. Captain Doyun looked at the screens and saw chaos. The mining colony was built on a large asteroid, surrounded by hundreds of smaller rocks. Ships were everywhere, moving in unorganized patterns. Some were trying to dock, others were trying to leave. It was a mess. Get me the colony administrator, Doyun ordered. A moment later, a Valarix appeared on the screen. He had worry in his eyes. This is Elder Vesh. Are you here to evacuate us? We're here to help, Doyun said. What's your situation? Terrible. We have 50,000 civilians and only enough transport ships for 30,000. Our defense force is falling apart. Half the soldiers have already left on the early ships. The ones who stayed don't know what to do. Vesh's voice broke a little. We've never fought a real war before. Doyun looked at Commander Sora. She was already studying the colony's layout on her screen. How long until the swarm arrives? Doyun asked. 48 hours, maybe less. Elder Vesh, we need to dock and assess your defenses. Defenses? Vesh looked confused. There's no point in defending. We must evacuate. If you evacuate now, the swarm will chase your slow transport ships. They'll hunt you down before you reach safety. Someone needs to stay and fight. Buy time for the civilians to escape. Vesh went pale. Fight? Against that? It's impossible. Maybe, Doyen said, but I'd like to try. Give us 6 hours. If we can't make a defensive plan that works, we'll just evacuate. Do you agree? Vesh nodded slowly. 6 hours. But I think you'll see it's hopeless. The Defiant Dawn docked at the colony. Doyen took a team down to the surface. The colony was built inside the asteroid, with tunnels and chambers carved out of rock. Mining equipment was everywhere. The civilians were scared. Many were crying. Parents held their children close. Dr. Hana went with Doyen. She started examining the colony's structure while Doyen met with the defense force. There were about 300 Valarix soldiers, and they all looked terrified. A young Valarix officer approached. I am Sub-Commander Kreth. I'm in charge now, since the senior officers left. He sounded ashamed. How many weapons do you have? Doyen asked. Energy rifles for each soldier and some defense turrets at the main entrances. But what good will that do? The reports say the swarm has thousands of ships and millions of warriors. Commander Sora stepped forward. She was a tall woman with scars on her arms from old battles. On my world, Mars, we had a saying, when the odds are impossible, change the game. Don't fight the way they expect. Kreth looked confused. I don't understand. Sora smiled. It was not a happy smile. You're miners, right? You have explosives, cutting lasers, industrial equipment. This asteroid is surrounded by hundreds of smaller asteroids. We can turn this entire field into a weapon. Dr. Hana joined them. I've been analyzing the Vorash biology from the reports. They're efficient hunters, but they've never faced prey that fights smart. They overwhelm through numbers. What if we break up their numbers? Force them into choke points. Doyen looked at the mining equipment around them. Heavy machinery, magnetic tethers, plasma cutters. We could rig the asteroid field, set up chain explosions, use the mining lasers as anti-ship weapons. That would require someone to stay here and operate everything, Kreth said quietly. A suicide mission. Yes, Doyen agreed. Kreth swallowed hard. The Assembly would never approve this. I'm not asking the Assembly, Doyen said. I'm asking you. Will you fight with us? Kreth looked at his soldiers. They were young, scared, from a peaceful world where war was something you studied in history, not something you lived through. I don't know if we can do this. A voice spoke from the back. It was Elder Vesh. He had followed them from the docking bay. 200 years ago, my grandfather was part of the team that saved Earth. He always said the humans were grateful beyond measure. He wondered if they would ever have a chance to repay us. Vesh picked up an energy rifle from a nearby rack. I think that day has come. Doyen felt something tight in his chest. Elder Vesh, you should be on an evacuation ship. My people need leadership. If I run, they'll panic. If I stay and fight, maybe some of them will find courage too. Vesh checked the rifle's power cell. Besides, I'm old. Better to die doing something brave than live as a coward. Over the next 6 hours, something remarkable happened. The humans shared their plan with the Valarix defenders. It was brutal and clever. They would turn the asteroid field into a minefield using the colony's explosives. Reprogram the mining drones to ram into enemy ships. Use the industrial lasers as long-range weapons. Set up kill zones inside the colony tunnels. Fight in ways no civilized species would consider. Sergeant Yuna, a human combat engineer, showed the Valarix how to make explosives from mining chemicals. On Earth, we learned to make weapons from anything. When you grow up on a death world, everything is a weapon. Private Minho, a young human medic, set up an emergency medical station. He had volunteered for this mission even though he knew the odds. When Kreth asked him why, Minho said, "Because someone saved my family once. Now it's my turn." As the preparations continued, Doyen made an announcement to all the ships. "We need volunteers to stay behind and defend Talos 7. This is a suicide mission. The swarm will likely kill all of us. But if we fight smart, we can buy enough time for the civilians to escape. Who will stand with us?" Every single human in the fleet volunteered. All 800 of them. Marines, engineers, pilots, even cooks. Every single one. But then something unexpected happened. 200 Valarix soldiers also stepped forward. Kreth was one of them. "You're showing us what real courage looks like," he said. "The least we can do is learn the lesson." Elder Vesh made the decision. "Evacuate all civilians immediately. All volunteers will stay behind. May the stars remember what you do here." The evacuation ships began loading. Parents hugged their children goodbye, not knowing if they would see them again. The transport ships were packed full. Every available space was used. As the last civilian ship left the docking bay, Corporal Tai Hyun watched it go. He was young, barely 25 years old. This was his first real combat mission. "Scared?" asked Sergeant Yuna. "Terrified," Tai Hyun admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you alert." Yuna handed him extra ammunition. "Remember your training. We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we're the most stubborn." Doyen watched the evacuation ships jump to faster-than-light travel. They were safe now, or at least safer. Now came the hard part, defending against an enemy that had destroyed 12 worlds. Dr. Hana approached him. "Captain, I should have left with the civilians. I'm a scientist, not a soldier." "Then why did you stay?" "Because data isn't enough. Someone needs to witness this. Record what happens. If we die here, at least the galaxy will know how hard we fought." She pulled out a small recording device. "Every moment will be transmitted to the fleet." Commander Sora joined them on the command center platform. "Defenses are ready. Every asteroid in the field is rigged. The tunnels are prepared. The weapons are distributed. We're as ready as we'll ever be." "How long do we have?" Doyen asked. "The swarm just entered sensor range. 12 hours, maybe less." Doyen looked at the volunteers around him, humans and Valarix working together, preparing to face impossible odds. He thought about his grandmother again, about the debt that had lasted 200 years. "Open a channel to all defenders," he said. When everyone was listening, Doyen spoke. "In a few hours, we're going to fight something terrible. Most of us won't survive, but that's okay. Because we're not fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for those transport ships, for 50,000 lives that deserve to reach safety. The galaxy thinks Earth produces violent primitives. Today, we show them what we really are. We're protectors. We're the ones who stand when others run." He paused. "The Valarix saved my species once. Today, we return that favor. Not because we have to, but because it's right." Around the colony, humans and Valarix checked their weapons one last time. They said quiet prayers. They thought about home, and they waited. The swarm was coming. The Vorash swarm arrived like a dark cloud covering the stars. Thousands of bioships, each one grown from living tissue instead of metal. They moved together like a school of fish, synchronized and deadly. Captain Doyen watched them on the screens and felt his heart beat faster. "All defenders to positions," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." The swarm approached the asteroid field without caution. They had destroyed 12 worlds already. They expected no resistance, just more food to consume. The bioships moved in close, surrounding Talos 7. "Now," Doyen said quietly. Sergeant Yuna pressed the detonator. The asteroid field exploded. One after another, the rigged asteroids blew apart, sending rock and metal flying in every direction. The chain reaction caught hundreds of Vorash bioships. They burst like bubbles, their organic hulls too weak to withstand the impacts. The swarm paused. For a moment there was confusion. They had never encountered prey that fought back like this. "Hit them again," Commander Sora ordered. "Don't give them time to adapt." The mining lasers activated. 12 powerful beams designed to cut through solid rock sliced into the swarm. More bioships exploded. The industrial equipment, reprogrammed as weapons, proved deadly effective. In the Galactic Assembly Hall, millions of light-years away, representatives watched the battle through Dr. Hana's transmitted feed. They had expected to see Talos 7 consumed in minutes. Instead, they saw the swarm taking heavy losses. "How is this possible?" one representative whispered. On Talos 7, the Vorash adapted quickly. They sent smaller warrior forms ahead of the ships, thousands of them, crawling through space using biological thrusters. They attached to the asteroid like parasites and began cutting through the outer hull. "Breach in Sector 7!" someone shouted. Corporal Tae-hyun and his squad ran to the breach. They arrived just as the first Vorash warriors came through. The creatures were terrible to look at. Part insect, part something worse. They had too many limbs and mouths full of teeth designed to tear through flesh. Tae-hyun opened fire. His energy rifle burned through the first warrior, then the second, then the third, but more kept coming. Beside him, a Valaric soldier froze in fear. "Shoot!" Tae-hyun yelled. "Don't think, just shoot!" The Valaric soldier started firing. Together, they held the corridor. When Tae-hyun's rifle overheated, he switched to his combat knife. A Varash warrior leaped at him. He stabbed it in what he hoped was a vital spot. Black blood sprayed across his armor. More human and Valaric soldiers arrived. They formed a line and pushed the Vorash back. Sergeant Yuna arrived with welding equipment. "Fall back! I'm sealing this breach!" The defenders retreated. Yuna worked fast, melting metal to close the hole. A Vorash warrior grabbed her leg. She kicked it away and kept welding. Private Minho shot the creature before it could attack again. "Sealed!" Yuna shouted. They ran as the corridor behind them filled with more Vorash. All across the colony, similar battles happened. The defenders used every trick they knew. They vented atmosphere to blow Vorash into space. They collapsed tunnels on top of enemy groups. They used mining charges as grenades. Subcommander Kreth led a Valarix squad in the lower levels. He was learning what humans meant by desperate fighting. When his rifle ran out of power, he grabbed a piece of broken metal and used it as a weapon. A Vorash warrior clawed his shoulder, tearing through his uniform. The pain was incredible, but Kreth kept fighting. A human marine grabbed him and pulled him back. "You're wounded!" "I can still fight," Kreth gasped. "That's the spirit." The marine grinned and handed him a fresh rifle. "Welcome to the Deathworld way of life." In the command center, Doyun tracked the battle. The swarm had lost over 2,000 bioships. It was an impossible number. No one had ever hurt the Vorash this badly. But the defenders were losing too. 40 humans dead, 20 Valarics. The numbers kept growing. Dr. Hana worked at a console, analyzing the Vorash biology in real time. "Captain, I found something. They communicate through chemical signals. If we can disrupt that, we might confuse them." "How?" "Vent the colony's chemical storage. All of it. It'll mix with their signals and create noise." "Do it." The colony's industrial chemicals flooded into space. The Vorash warriors suddenly became disorganized. They attacked each other by mistake. Some wandered aimlessly. It gave the defenders precious minutes to regroup. But the swarm was learning. They sent a massive wave of warriors, too many to count. They overwhelmed Sector 9 completely. 50 defenders died in minutes. Corporal Tae-hyun was in Sector 10 when he got the call. "Sector 9 has fallen. They're coming to you next. Hold them." Tae-hyun looked at his squad. 8 humans, 5 Valarics. All of them exhausted. All of them scared. "We hold," he said simply. The Vorash came like a flood. Tae-hyun fired until his rifle melted. He fought with his knife until it broke. A Vorash warrior ripped his left arm off at the elbow. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. He fell to the ground, but he didn't stop. He grabbed a fallen rifle with his right hand and kept shooting. One-handed, bleeding, he held the line. A Valaric soldier stared at him in shock. "How are you still fighting?" Taehyun laughed, though it hurt. "On Earth we have a saying, pain is just weakness leaving the body." He fired again. "Besides, I'm too stubborn to die before the job is done." Private Minho reached him and started treating the wound. He used a plasma cutter to seal the stump, stopping the bleeding. Taehyun screamed but held still. "You need to evacuate," Minho said. "No," Taehyun replied. "We hold." Hours passed. The battle became a blur of violence and desperation. The defenders gave ground slowly, making the Vorash pay for every meter. Commander Sora led counterattacks that pushed the enemy back temporarily. Sergeant Yuna created traps that killed hundreds of Vorash at a time. Elder Vesh fought alongside young soldiers, his old hands steady on his rifle. When a human Marine died protecting him, Vesh felt something break inside. These Deathworlders, these supposedly primitive beings, were dying to protect his people. In the Galactic Assembly, the representatives watched in silence. They saw humans fighting with injuries that should have killed them. They saw Valaric soldiers learning to be brave. They saw what real warfare looked like. "Why don't they retreat?" someone asked. Ambassador Jinwoo, watching from his seat, answered quietly. "Because they decided those transport ships are more important than their own lives. That's what humanity is. That's what we've always been." On Talos 7, the impossible happened. After 18 hours of continuous battle, the Vorash swarm began to retreat. They had lost 6,000 bioships. They had lost tens of thousands of warriors. The hive mind couldn't understand it. Prey wasn't supposed to fight like this. The swarm pulled back and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. The defenders stood in the ruined colony, covered in blood and burns, and couldn't believe they were still alive. Of the 800 humans who stayed, only 312 survived. Of the 200 Valarics, only 87 remained. Captain Doyen walked through the corridors, looking at the cost. Bodies everywhere, human and Valarics fallen together. He found Corporal Taehyun sitting against a wall. The young man was pale from blood loss, but smiling. "We did it, Captain," Taehyun said weakly. "The transport ships got away, right?" "Yes. They're safe. You saved them." Taehyun closed his eyes. "Good. Tell my family. Tell them Earth remembers its debts." Private Minho worked desperately to save him, but there was too much damage. Taehyun died with that smile still on his face. All across the galaxy, people watched the transmitted footage. They saw the last moments of the battle. They saw humans dragging wounded Valarics to safety. They saw soldiers of different species fighting side by side. They saw what it meant to truly stand together. In the Galactic Assembly, the chamber was completely silent. High Chancellor Vrix stood at his podium with tears in his eyes. "I have been a fool," he said. "We all have been. We called them Deathworlders as if it was an insult. But today they showed us what it truly means. They're not violent primitives. They're protectors." Ambassador Jinwoo received a message from Captain Doyen. It was simple. Debt paid. Jinwoo stood and addressed the assembly. 200 years ago, you saved us. Today, we return that favor. But the Vorash swarm is still out there. They're not finished. And neither are we. If you'll accept our help, we're ready to fight. Every representative in the chamber stood and applauded. For the first time in galactic history, humanity received a standing ovation. On Talos 7, Commander Sora stood beside Captain Doyen and looked at the stars. The swarm had retreated, but they would return, stronger, more prepared. "What do we do now?" she asked. Doyen watched the medical teams work, saving everyone they could. He saw humans and Valarics helping each other, bonded by shared sacrifice. "Now," he said, "we teach the galaxy how to fight back." The Battle of Talos 7 changed everything overnight. When the sun rose on Valara Prime the next day, the Valarix Emperor did something unprecedented. He traveled to Earth personally. His ship landed in front of the memorial wall, where the names of everyone who died saving Earth from the solar flare were carved in stone. The Emperor knelt before the wall. Behind him, cameras from across the galaxy broadcast his words. 200 years ago, we saved Earth because we could. We thought we were being merciful to a lesser species. We were wrong. Today, Earth's children died saving my people, not because they had to, but because it was right. The debt is not paid. The debt is reversed. From this day forward, humanity stands as our equal. On Earth, millions watched. Many cried. For 2 centuries, humans had lived as second-class citizens in the galaxy. Now, finally, they were recognized. But there was no time for celebration. The Varash swarm had retreated, but intelligence reports showed they were regrouping. They had learned from Talos 7. The next attack would be worse. Admiral Ki-hoon stood in Earth's Defense Command Center looking at star maps. He was 60 years old with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent his entire life preparing for war, even though most people thought it would never come. Now it was here. "The swarm will return within 2 months," his tactical officer reported. "And when they do, they'll bring everything. This will be the final battle." Ki-hoon nodded. "Then we need to prepare the galaxy. Get me a connection to the Galactic Assembly." An emergency session was called. Every species sent their representatives. This time, when Ambassador Jinwoo entered the chamber, he didn't sit in the back. He was invited to the center podium, beside High Chancellor Vrix. "The galaxy faces extinction," Jinwoo began. "The Vorash swarm is coming back, and they'll target our most important worlds: Earth, Valara Prime, the core colonies. If they succeed, billions will die. We cannot stop them using traditional warfare, but we can stop them if we fight smart." "What do you propose?" asked a Theraxian representative. Jinwoo activated a holographic display. It showed Admiral Ki-hoon's plan. "We need to transform the entire galactic military, train every soldier in human combat techniques, retrofit our ships for desperate fighting. Most importantly, we need to think like Deathworlders." "What does that mean?" someone asked. Commander Sora stepped forward. She had been invited to speak to the assembly. Her uniform was still scorched from Talos 7. "It means accepting that war is not about honor or glory. It's about survival. It means using every weapon, every trick, every advantage. It means fighting even when you're hurt, even when you're scared, even when it seems hopeless." A Cillian representative stood up. "You're asking us to become violent like humans." "No," Sora replied. "I'm asking you to become survivors. There's a difference. Violence for its own sake is wrong. Violence to protect those who cannot protect themselves is necessary." The vote was unanimous. For the first time, humans would train the galactic military. Admiral Ki-hoon was given command of the Combined Defense Forces. Ambassador Jinwoo was appointed as the coordinator between all species. What followed was the most intense 2 months in galactic history. Across thousands of worlds, training began. On Valara Prime, Sub-Commander Kreth led a class of Valaric soldiers through human combat training. The instructor was a tough human sergeant who showed no mercy. She made them crawl through mud. She made them fight while exhausted. She made them push through pain they never knew existed. "On Earth, gravity is stronger," the sergeant explained. "The air is thicker. The weather can kill you. The animals hunt you. We evolved in hell, so we learned to fight through anything. You need to learn the same." Kreth struggled through the training. His body hurt in ways he didn't know were possible. But he remembered Talos 7. He remembered watching Corporal Tae-hyun fight with one arm. If a human could do that, he could endure this training. At the orbital shipyards, engineers worked around the clock. They stripped luxury from every ship and added armor. They installed weapons that Garden World species had always considered too brutal. They redesigned fleet tactics based on human wolf pack hunting strategies. Dr. Hana worked with alien scientists in a secret laboratory. She had been studying the Vorash biology since Talos 7. Now she had a breakthrough. They communicate through quantum-linked spores, she explained to her team. If we can create interference, we can confuse their entire hive mind. A young alien scientist named Yunji helped develop the virus. She was a Thoraxian, small and delicate, with 6 fingers on each hand. She worked for 3 days without sleep, writing code that would corrupt the Vorash communication network. Will it work? Dr. Hana asked. It should cause massive confusion, Yunji replied. But someone needs to deliver it directly into the swarm. That means flying into the middle of them. A suicide mission. Yes. They both knew what that meant. Someone would have to volunteer. All across the galaxy, civilized species were learning uncomfortable truths. They learned that sometimes you had to sacrifice ships to win battles. They learned that retreat wasn't always an option. They learned that protecting others sometimes meant dying for them. Ambassador Jinwoo visited multiple worlds, speaking to soldiers about to go into battle. On the Cillian homeworld, he met with a young soldier who was terrified. I don't know if I can do this, the soldier admitted. I've never hurt anyone. My species has lived in peace for 5,000 years. Jinwoo sat down beside him. I understand. But think about why you're fighting. Not for glory or territory. You're fighting so that children on your homeworld can grow up safe. You're fighting so that peace can continue after the swarm is gone. That's worth any sacrifice. The soldier nodded slowly. How did humans learn to be so brave? We're not braver than you, Jinwoo said. We're just more experienced with fear. On Earth, we face death every single day. We learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. As the deadline approached, one final piece of news arrived. The Vorash swarm had been located. They were gathering at the outer veil, building a massive force for their final attack. Intelligence estimated over 100,000 bioships. Admiral Cahoon made a decision. We attack them first, before they're ready. The Galactic Assembly debated for hours. Some thought it was too risky. But High Chancellor Vrix stood and spoke. At Talos 7, 1,000 defenders held against impossible odds. They showed us what's possible when we refuse to give up. The Admiral is right. We attack first. The combined fleet assembled. It was the largest military force in galactic history, ships from 47 different species all working together. Human vessels flew alongside Valerix cruisers, Thoraxian carriers, Cillian destroyers. Every species contributed, but everyone knew the truth. Even with this massive fleet, the odds were still against them. The swarm was simply too large. That's when Sub-Commander Kreth volunteered for the suicide mission. He would fly a small ship loaded with Yunji's virus directly into the swarm's center. The confusion it caused would give the fleet a chance. Captain Doyen tried to talk him out of it. You don't have to do this. Find someone else. No, Kreth said firmly. At Talos 7, I learned what it means to fight for others. Humans taught me that. Now it's my turn to teach the galaxy. He smiled. Besides, I've been trained by the best. If anyone can get through, it's me. 6 human pilots volunteered to escort him. They would fly alongside Kreth's ship, protecting it until the last possible moment. All of them knew they weren't coming back. The night before the battle, Commander Sora found Captain Doyen standing alone, looking at Earth through a window. Thinking about home? She asked. Thinking about my grandmother. She used to say that the Valerix saved us because they were good people. I used to wonder if we would ever get a chance to prove we were good people too. And now? Doyen smiled. Now I think she'd be proud. We're not fighting because we have to. We're fighting because it's who we are. The fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. Admiral Ki-hoon gave a final speech to all forces. 2 months ago, the galaxy learned what Deathworlders truly are. We're not monsters or primitives. We're protectors. We're the ones who stand when others fall. Today, we all become Deathworlders. Today, we all learn to fight like Earth taught us, for our homes, for our families, for each other. Across the fleet, soldiers from 47 different species checked their weapons. They said prayers in different languages. They thought about the people they were protecting, and they prepared to face the largest battle in galactic history. The fleet jumped. When they arrived at the outer veil, they would face the Vorash swarms full strength. Most of them would die, but they would die fighting, and that made all the difference. The combined fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the outer veil. What they saw made even the bravest soldiers feel fear. The Vorash swarm filled space like a living darkness. Over 100,000 bioships, all clustered around a massive structure. It looked like a moon made of flesh and bone. That's the Queen Mind, Dr. Hana said from her station on the Defiant Dawn. The central intelligence that controls the entire swarm. If we destroy that, the whole hive mind falls apart. Admiral Ki-hoon studied the tactical display. The Queen Mind was protected by layers of bioships and millions of Vorash warriors. Getting close to it would be nearly impossible. Commander Sora, take your strike team and get ready. Sub-Commander Kreth, prepare for your run. Sora led a team of 200 soldiers. Humans, Valarics, Thoroxians, Cillians, and others. They would use captured Vorash bioships to sneak inside the Queen Mind structure and plant bombs. It was the most dangerous mission anyone had ever attempted. Kreth sat in his small ship, surrounded by 6 human fighter pilots. The ship was loaded with Yunji's virus. He just needed to get close enough to release it into the swarm's communication network. "Ready?" Captain Doyen asked over the communication line. "Ready," Kreth replied. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "All ships, engage!" Admiral Ki-hoon ordered. The battle began. The combined fleet crashed into the Vorash swarm like a wave hitting a wall. Energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. Ships exploded on both sides. It was chaos on a scale the galaxy had never seen. But this time, the galaxy knew how to fight. The ships moved in coordinated groups using human pack tactics. They covered each other, sacrificed tactical positions to save damaged vessels, and fought with a desperation that the Vorash hadn't prepared for. Kreth and his escorts dove into the swarm. Bioships attacked from every direction. The human pilots protected him, destroying enemies before they could reach his ship. One by one, the escorts fell. First 2, then 4, then 5. Only 1 remained. "Almost there!" the last pilot shouted. "Go, go, go!" A massive Vorash bioship blocked their path. The human pilot didn't hesitate. She rammed her fighter directly into it, destroying both ships and clearing the way. Kreth flew through the explosion, released the virus, and watched as it spread through the swarm's communication network like fire. Suddenly, the Vorash ships began moving erratically. They attacked each other by mistake. They flew in confused patterns. "It's working!" Dr. Hana shouted from the Defiant Dawn. "The virus is spreading!" But the Queen Mind was adapting. It began purging infected parts of the hive mind, killing its own ships to stop the confusion. The window of opportunity was closing. "Strike team, you need to move now!" Admiral Ki-hoon ordered. Commander Sora and her team had managed to infiltrate the Queen Mind structure using stolen bioships. They crawled through organic corridors that pulsed with life. The smell was terrible. The walls secreted acid that burned through their armor. "Plant the charges," Sora ordered. "We have 6 minutes before detonation." The team split up, each group heading to different sections of the structure. They fought through Vorash warriors that seemed to come from the walls themselves. A Valaric soldier named Hyunwoo discovered he could hack into the structure's nervous system and turn it against itself. "I can shut down sections temporarily," he said. "Buy you more time." "Do it," Sora replied. Hyunwoo connected to the organic computer system. Information flooded his mind. He saw through the Queen Mind's eyes. He felt its hunger, its desperation, and he understood something important. "Commander," he said urgently, "the Varash aren't evil. They're starving. Their home galaxy is dead. They consumed everything there. Now they're just trying to survive." Sora paused. For a moment she felt sympathy. Then she thought about Corporal Taehyun, about the millions who had died, about the children on 40 different worlds who deserved to grow up. "I'm sorry," she said to the Queen Mind, speaking out loud even though she knew it couldn't understand. "But we have to survive too." She armed the final charge. The timer started. 6 minutes. "All teams, extraction point," Sora ordered. The team raced back through the collapsing corridors. The Queen Mind knew it was dying. It threw every warrior at them. Half the team fell. Dr. Hana, who had insisted on joining the mission, used her scientific knowledge to find shortcuts through the structure's biology. They reached the extraction ships with 1 minute left. Engines roared to life. The ships launched, racing away from the Queen Mind. Outside, the main battle had reached a critical point. The combined fleet was losing. Too many ships damaged. Too many casualties. Admiral Ki-hoon watched his forces fall back. "Should we retreat?" his tactical officer asked. Ki-hoon thought about Talos 7, about 1,000 defenders holding against impossible odds. "No, we hold the line. If Commander Sora succeeded, this will all be worth it." Captain Doyen piloted the Defiant Dawn directly into the thickest fighting. His ship was damaged, bleeding atmosphere from a dozen holes. But he kept fighting. Around him, ships from every species did the same. A Thoroxian captain, her ship on fire, rammed into a bioship 3 times her size. A Cillian destroyer, out of ammunition, used its hull as a battering ram. Across the fleet, soldiers were learning what humans had always known. Sometimes survival means sacrificing everything. Sora's extraction ships cleared the Queen Mind structure with 10 seconds to spare. The charges detonated. The massive structure began collapsing inward, pulled apart by artificial singularities. The Queen Mind screamed, a sound that echoed through the quantum communication network every ship could detect. Then it died. Across the entire swarm, the Varash ships stopped moving. Without the Queen Mind to guide them, they were just mindless organisms. They drifted aimlessly, no longer a threat. The battle was over. The galaxy had won, but the cost was terrible. 30% of the fleet destroyed, 40 billion lives lost in the war, 18 worlds damaged beyond repair. Commander Sora had lost 60% of her strike team. Yet they had survived. The Vorash swarm, leaderless and confused, retreated back into the void between galaxies. They would not return. 6 months later, the Galactic Assembly held a memorial service. Every species sent representatives. They stood together before a new monument that listed every name of every soldier who died fighting the swarm. Human names mixed with Valeric's names, Thoroxian names, Cillian names, all equal in sacrifice. Ambassador Jinwoo, now the Secretary General of the Assembly, gave a speech. 200 years ago, one species saved another out of kindness. That act created a debt we thought we could never repay. But we learned something during this war. The debt was never real. We were always family. We just didn't know it yet. The Valeric's emperor approached and removed his royal crest, the highest honor in his culture. He placed it around Jinwoo's neck. "You showed us what true civilization means. Not comfort or technology, but the willingness to protect others. Thank you for saving us. Thank you for teaching us." On Earth, a new monument was built beside the old one. It showed a human soldier and a Valaric soldier standing back to back, protecting each other. The inscription was simple, written in every galactic language. "We saved each other. That's what families do." Captain Doyen retired from active duty. He returned to Earth and visited his grandmother's grave. He placed his medal on her headstone. "We paid it back, Grandmother. The Valarics saved us, and we saved them. The debt is settled." But deep down, he knew the truth. It was never about debts. It was about being good people who helped each other when times were hard. Commander Sora took command of a new ship, the Unified Hope. Its crew was mixed. Humans worked alongside aliens from every species. They trained together, ate together, became friends. The old divisions were gone. Sub-Commander Kreth survived his suicide mission. His ship had been damaged, but a human rescue team found him floating in space and brought him home. He became an instructor at the new military academy, teaching soldiers from all species how to fight with courage. Dr. Hana continued her research. She worked with Yunji and other scientists to find peaceful solutions to future threats. They discovered ways to communicate with other species, to understand them before fighting became necessary. Admiral Ki-hoon retired as a hero. Before he left, he gave one final order. Every military vessel in the galaxy was to carry a small plaque with words from Earth. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves." Years passed. The galaxy rebuilt. The destroyed worlds were restored. Trade routes reopened. Children grew up hearing stories about the war, about the bravery of soldiers from every species. On Talos 7, now a memorial site, a garden grew where the battle had been fought. Flowers from 47 different worlds bloomed together. Families visited to remember those who had died. One day, a young Valarix girl visited with her parents. She looked at the monument and asked, "Why did the humans fight for us?" Her father knelt beside her. He was a veteran of the war with scars that would never fully heal. "Because 200 years ago, we fought for them. Because that's what good people do. They help each other." "Will bad things come again?" the girl asked. "Maybe," her father replied. "But if they do, we'll be ready. Because the humans taught us something important. They taught us that giving up is never an option. They taught us to fight for each other, no matter the cost." The girl looked at the names on the monument. Human names mixed with alien names. "They were brave." "Yes, and so are you. So is every child in this galaxy, because you're growing up in a galaxy they saved." Far above Talos 7, Captain Doyen's old ship, the Defiant Dawn, flew by. It was commanded by a young officer now, continuing its missions. In the captain's quarters, the old photograph still hung. Doyen's grandmother standing beside the Valarix engineer. Two people from different worlds working together. That photograph had witnessed the galaxy change. It had seen humanity rise from grateful refugees to respected protectors. It had seen the galaxy unite in ways no one thought possible. And in a secret room on Earth, historians finished recording the official history of the war. They gave it a simple title: The Age When Kindness Learned to Fight Back. Ambassador Jin Woo, now old and gray, read the history and smiled. He thought about all the years humanity spent trying to earn respect, all the years they felt like they owed an unpayable debt. He picked up his pen and added one final note to the history. "The Valarics saved us because they were good. We saved them because we learned from their example. That is the real lesson. Goodness spreads. Kindness multiplies. And when the time comes to stand against darkness, those who have known kindness will fight the hardest to protect it." He put down his pen and looked at the stars through his window. Out there, mixed crews flew on ships protecting the galaxy. Children of every species grew up together. The old prejudices were fading. The debt was paid, but more importantly, the debt never mattered. What mattered was that when good people faced evil, they stood together, and they won.